Did the Fed just try to jumpstart the economy? Recently in a speech, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, stated in a speech that moderating the pace of rate increases may come as soon as the December meeting, signaling a slowdown in the pace of rate hikes, and this sent a shockwave across the economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose over 700 points, and the S&P 500 rose 3%, which technically takes the economy out of a bear market. Also on the real estate side, interest rates decreased week by week, which sent mortgage applications up over the past few weeks. Is this a sign that we're really not in a recession, or is this just part of the bear market where there's ups and downs, peaks and troughs that we have to experience along our way down? Honestly, it's crazy to think how much power the words of Jerome Powell has. He stated a simple statement, and that sent hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy without him doing anything at all. I would like to know what you all think of Jerome Powell's statement and also the reaction in the stock market and the economy. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for some more awesome content around personal finance, real estate, and the economy as a whole. Jerome Powell has been in an all-out war against inflation by aggressively hiking interest rates. He has a goal to bring inflation down to 2%. And hiking the interest rate has been the main goal, the main way to kill inflation over these past few months. Over the past 4 meetings, the Fed increased the benchmark by 0.75%. Now, this 0.75% may sound small, but this is actually huge in the banking world. The reason why this rate is impactful because this is the rate at which banks borrow money from the central bank and from other banks. And this has a ripple effect on how we as consumers use banks for mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. But in a recent speech by Jerome Powell, not even an official Fed meeting, Jerome Powell stated that he will most likely, and the Fed will most likely decrease the pace at which they increase the interest rate starting as soon as next month, or this month, in the month of December 2022. Jerome Powell stated that, "I don't want to over-tighten, but cutting rates is not something we want to do soon. So that's why we're slowing down, and we'll try to find our way to what that right level is." The Fed understands we are nowhere near closing down on inflation, and so they will continue on increasing the interest rate, but at a slower pace. And even on top of that, Jerome Powell also stated that the full effects of what they're doing is not even really fully being reflected in the economy or being felt. Especially in certain sectors, this effect of higher interest rates won't be affected till 6 or 9 months down the road. For example, if you look at real estate, if the Fed increases the rates today, most likely prices won't reflect those higher interest rates until much later down the road, probably sometime in 2023. I believe the Fed knows what they're doing, and by hiking the interest rates, you kind of can't avoid a recession, but they don't want to get deeper into a recession or even reach a depression. And so that's why they are slowing down the pace at which they are hiking interest rates. Powell also stated in this meeting that we might get rid of inflation, but at a very high human cost. When you suddenly increase interest rates like the Fed was doing over these past couple of months, down the road, this may lead to increase or extreme drops in different sectors of the economy. But the Fed now, they're looking to slow that pace in order for the reflection of those interest rates to happen at a more gradual pace. So down the road, we won't just drop 20% in 1 week in home prices. That is more gradual, like 1% here, 2% here. And so that's why they're slowing down the pace. Now, Jerome Powell reiterated in this meeting that they will continue on course with increasing interest rates. And the pace at which they increase it has nothing to do with how much they're going to increase it by and how long interest rates will stay at elevated levels. He stated, "History cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy. We will stay the course until the job is done." So the stock market is definitely overreacting to what Jerome Powell is stating. He is clear on his initiative and the Fed's plan to kill and destroy inflation, or just to bring it down to normal levels, which is extremely hard to do. but definitely investors are getting too excited just because of this statement when interest rates are just going to continue on increasing. Many financial experts disagreed with how Jerome Powell brought this message across in this meeting. David Russell, Vice President of Market Intelligence at TradeStation Group, stated that Powell needs to keep talking tough, but he gave Wall Street reason for hope. Everyone knows rate hikes take time to operate, and we are seeing their effects as the labor market cools. Now, the stock market, it's so volatile and so reactive to the statements of Jerome Powell. So Jerome Powell has to take extra caution to how he states certain things because he doesn't want to give way to investors and consumers to overreact to his statements and not help inflation go down and just contribute to higher prices. And yes, we are still seeing the effects of the interest rate hikes that the Fed is doing. For example, mortgage applications have gone down. We are also seeing a lot of employers laying off their workers, unfortunately, because revenues are not as high as they used to be like last year or earlier this year. For example, job openings fell in the United States to 10.3 million in October compared to 10.7 in September, showing another sign that the labor market is cooling off. Tech companies, home builders, and other businesses have a pessimistic view on the economy, and they're preparing for this recession by laying off workers and just decreasing labor costs and other expenses in general. But still, we have a lot of investors and consumers overreacting to the words of Jerome Powell. This recent rise in the S&P 500 erased all of the declines in the previous two sessions, and the index closes well above its 200-day moving average for the first time since April of this year. A senior analyst at Motley Fool stated that investors love tangible information. So even though this is not a print from the meeting, you have the chair coming out and giving what investors see as much more tangible symbol than even the minutes that we saw last week. Inflation and prices are still relatively high, so I truly believe Jerome Powell and the Fed needs to reconsider if even they want to do a slowdown in the pace of rate hikes because of investors and how reactive they are to what the Fed is doing. Now, the economy definitely needs to decrease inflation even more, and what the Fed is doing is actually working a little bit. I made a video a couple weeks ago about the Fed's favorite index for measuring inflation, and no, it's not the CPI report that you always see in the news, but it's the PCE index, which is the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. They released a report on December 1st, 2022, and it showed a 0.2% rise in the index in the month of October, which is slightly below estimates. So yes, according to this PCE report, inflation is slowing down. It did increase a little bit, but it's showing that inflation is at least stabilizing. But once again, any hint that the economy is doing well, you have these investors driving up prices of commodities and investing in the stock market and even real estate, which we are trying to bring these prices down. So we have to make sure, and the Fed has a very difficult job of balancing increasing the interest rate and also decreasing the hopes into investors trying to push money into the market. Yes, we want a healthy economy, but right now we definitely need a slowdown. So what do you all think of these statements and the reaction in the economy? Do you think it was an overreaction and that with all the abundance of information, any glimmer of hope or the economy stabilizing will just revert us back to high inflation? Be sure to comment down below, like this video, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later.